Well, hello everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of When Dev Meets Ops. And joining me today, as always, is Swami. How are you doing, Swami?
Hey Johnny, doing good. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good. It's Friday, and it's the end of a long, busy week. I think it's probably fair to say. So noticeable absence. Robbie's got caught up with work, so he might join us a little bit later on in the session. But look, good to see you again as always, Swarmy. I mean, is it worth? Let's just give a brief overview of what we're going to cover today. Because today is we got a little bit to show, but I think it's going to be a bit more of a recap of the previous kind of
Yeah,
9 sessions. Yeah, do you want to give us that little
yeah.
bit of an
It's
overview?
it, yeah, it's mostly an overview, but some of the things which we will touch it as we always tell, we introduce something, and time and again we'll come and we'll revisit that, and we'll introduce those things.
Yeah.
So that's one pretty important thing. And is my screen in share?
We're in Inception
Okay.
mode. It is. I can see you.
Okay, cool then. Cool. So let me give these links specifically. This is one, and the eShop main is this one, and this is the products. Okay, and before I start, I just want to explicitly call out that space, empty space which is there. That's for Robbie. So we are waiting for you, Robbie. Whenever you are done with your work, please jump in. Okay. So we have a lot of things to do. We'll see some few things now. How did we plan? So we plan to show some of the things which we didn't touch in the previous episodes. Like even though we are working on Azure Kubernetes service from the portal, but few things we never saw. So we'll go and touch upon those things. And then how do you work with AKS cluster, Azure Kubernetes service, using the VS Code extension. And we'll do some of the imperative commands, either through the Cloud Shell or from the terminal. There are multiple ways to do. We'll try one or two methods. Then we'll introduce what is the main GitHub main repository and a couple of PowerShell scripts and the shell scripts which is there inside the main. And then we'll do a quick recap of our previous 9 episodes. And this we are making it a logical closure of product microservice, but it is not the closure of products microservice, because we need pagination, and we need filtering, we need sorting. There are a lot of things. Again, once we start client, and we'll come back. I just want to quickly, not to derail, but quickly want to show that, like after this 10 sessions of introduction was the first session, and then there was a 10 sessions which was exclusively we discussed on how to design, develop, architect one microservice. Now then there is a saga for client. Now we'll introduce Angular 14 client, and then how do you integrate with the existing as is products microservice, which is sitting inside the AKS Azure Kubernetes service. Then we do a deep dive on how do we configure. We'll come back at the end, but we will be making the products microservice as a logical stop. Then we'll start with the client saga. We'll take client a little bit forward, then we'll start introducing, but we can explain the deep dive or the plan.
So
Okay.
there's some bits and pieces, some features that need to be added into the product microservice at the minute, but we're going to crack ahead with the client side things after this session today.
Right, exactly. Because it's already 10 sessions people have waited, and even for us, it's becoming a routine or boring thing working on the products microservice. So we say
Yeah.
that, hey, let's stop, let's go to the next saga. Let's move or bring in the new pieces. Right now, we have only 2 containers in Kubernetes. Now we need 10 to 12 containers to make our lives hell. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Make
yeah,
things interesting.
exactly. We have to make our things interesting. Right now, we have only the same MongoDB and the same products microservice. Let's bring in Azure function as a container and bring in its data source and bring in client, bring in oslet, and bring in identity to containers. Let's multiply the containers or at least add the containers and make our life spicy.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So
Cool.
that being told, yeah, Johnny, anything?
No, that's good. Yeah, so I think we're going to jump in and show those bits around a Azure Kubernetes service that we couldn't get into
Yeah,
session 9 now, aren't we? Yeah, cool.
right. So the first thing is what we will do is we'll come to this main repo where we have this actions, and I'll go ahead and execute this manually. So I'll just run this workflow. It will be pretty fast, but there are some things which we will introduce, but we will not discuss anything on that, because till now, if you see that we have introduced the Azure Kubernetes service to a okay level. I don't even tell that to a decent level. We did it till the okay level, like build enough architecture so that you can cross the bridge. Like this, we created something, we deployed it, and we didn't speak the nitty gritties or the internals, the architecture of those things. At least we introduced it, but we didn't do a deep dives. So what we will do, we will show few other pieces which we didn't touch it. So like we will have an exclusive or a dedicated session where we spend entire episode on playing around Azure Kubernetes service, purely imperative, like what is pod and what is node, how do you create with commands, and how do you scale it, and then how do you write a small YAMLs. I mean, as and when we'll take a break from our main channel and we'll embed those kind of sessions, so which will give an extra knowledge
Yeah.
to the folks.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm with you.
so
So
it's
all this
doing the
all this deployment now, Swami, is the infrastructure that we talked about, like you say, that we're just deploying into our Azure subscription, just to, like you say, cross that bridge, get us an AKS cluster up and running that we
yeah.
can deploy and start having a look at things. Yeah. And all this is in the Git repo as well, isn't it, Swami, for those watching?
So this is, I did an approval. So we are three people, Johnny, Robbie, Swami. Anyone can approve. I approved it. Technically, I shouldn't be allowed to approve my own deployment, but this is just a demo. I am approving. You can see that it has started creating it, the deployment. The Terraform plan is being run as of now. And when we come back to the Azure subscription, we will see the resource groups. At this point of time, there are no resource group which starts with RG eShop. So that is where it goes and deploys. So if you see RG eShop dev 001, we don't have that resource group here. So right now it is deploying that. So you can see that one small tip here, because this is the resource doesn't exist, and it is deploying it for the first time.
Yeah.
And how do you find what Terraform is doing? It will have three symbols at least. One is plus symbol, the green color plus symbol, that means that particular resource is being added. And one is red color minus or hyphen symbol, that means that particular resource is being deleted. And the other one is tilde symbol. I don't remember the color of tilde, but the tilde symbol represents the change in the resource. So there is something, maybe you have changed the name, or you bumped up the SKU, or added something. Okay, it's in amber. Tilde is in amber. Thank God, I learned it. So again, the minus or hyphen symbol is for the deletion of the resources, and tilde amber color, which is for modification, and the green is for addition of resources.
Yeah.
Okay, I think anything you want to add?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just the fact that these Terraform files are in that Git repo, and that's what we're using to build the environment now. Swami, that's right, isn't it?
Yes, yes. So what we what it is, as we discussed, like what should be the main project. So we decided the eShop main is like the main project which contains the infrastructure as well as the entire solution deployment from here. So that's the intention. Slowly we are building it, and we will set up the context at the end of this session, or if time doesn't permits, we will introduce this in the next session, and we will show that how we can deploy, or how do we create a folder structure where it will contain all the eShop projects into one particular parent folder. So that's pretty interesting. I'm just waiting for us to complete the previous sessions so that we can discuss on that. But at least to a decent extent in the next session, if time doesn't permits now, we will definitely introduce the eShop main in the next session. So I think it is applying that, and it's still creating. It is 2 minutes 50 seconds, but at least we'll come and see what it is creating. So we have to focus on two things when we deploy the Azure Kubernetes service. There are two things which it gets deployed. One is the eShop Dev 001 and eShop Dev NRG. So what is the difference between these two resource groups, which we never touched upon, but at least we will touch now. So the main resource group which we are creating, it's everything is dynamic. As we mentioned it previously, we used to deploy the infrastructure on an existing resource group. That means the Terraform and the GitHub action expects that the resource group already exists. But now we changed from that model to go ahead and create a resource group if it doesn't exist. If it exists, check, verify the state, and create the delta of the resources. So here the key thing is log analytics workspace and the Kubernetes cluster. We'll come back to this one in a moment. Now, what is the other resource group, which is similar to this eShop Dev 001, eShop Dev 001, NRG, that is node resource group. So this is where it creates all the internals or all the infrastructure whichever is required. So if you see that it has got Azure Kubernetes agent pool, network security group, we can get into that and we can see that the inbound rules, outbound rules, what is the interface, network interface card, and what is the subnets. We'll do deep dive a little later, but I just want to introduce that there is another resource group which holds all the resources. Now you can see that at this point of time, I think we have taken only single node pool. So we can see that it has got a virtual machine scale set, and you can come and verify that it's having a single instance. In future episode, we will create two or more number of nodes. So at that time, you will see the number of instance. So we saw that this has got the network security group, it has got the virtual machine scale set, it has got the virtual network, and it has got few managed identities, and it has got a public IP address and a load balancer. This is pretty critical, and to understand that, because if you see that, that's the fifth public IP address which it got created. So if you go and check this fifth public IP address, we will not do a deep dive, but at least I just want to tell that when you create, without even we knowing, there is the public IP address which it is creating, and that public IP address is like a gateway into the cluster. And you can see that when we come to the Azure load balancer over here, and front-end IP configuration, this is IP configuration that is going and reaching to 20.124.40.42. So when we go and click on that Azure Kubernetes service. Where is the IP address? The IP address, the node pools. Just give me a minute. Let's see that's the node pool. And here are the nodes. Okay, that node again points back to the machine which we saw in scale set.
Yeah.
Okay, so which we saw that in the scale set, and oh, I came out of that. So let me come to the after that, let me go to this namespaces. So here we can see the different namespaces like kube public, kube system, default, gatekeeper. We'll do a little bit deeper into this, but not at this point of time. But just wanted to quickly do a 30,000 uh, run through this one. Like you can see that these all are deployments. That means which maintains the replica sets. Like each of this, it says 2. So gatekeeper control should be 2. And you can see that core DNS autoscaler, core DNS is 2. Rest of these 2 are 2, and metric server also 2. So it will ensure that these many number of pods exist. So you can come and verify those pods are here. Like if you see that some of the pods which are 3 and 2, and so if you see that cloud node manager, notice this guy's IP 10 to 24 0. What is that we saw? Somewhere we saw that. Is it in the backend pool or in the IP configuration? Okay, so see this in the Kubernetes, and it's coming to the AKS system pool, 10.224.0.4. So that means this public IP address, whatever the public IP address which we saw over here, that has got it is routing to this particular system. So you can see that. So that means
Yep.
it is speaking to the main cluster there. So any communication which we do, which will come to this one. And another key thing what I want to highlight here is if we come to the services and ingresses. Now, if you see that service at this point of time, we have all cluster IPs. Okay, and you see that that's from the default system at this point of time. Even in 2 to 3 more even 2 to 3 more microservices, we'll put it in default system, or we might put it in a separate namespace, and we are not going to differentiate or put into a separate the virtual network. We'll see that virtual network for 1 minute and then come back and want to show you one very important thing. So if you see that the virtual network, we have the virtual network, and here is the address space, and there are large number of address spaces which are available, and you can see that this has got one subnet, and inside that we are dropping all these things inside this one subnet. So eventually we might split this subnets and put all the data in one subnet, and then the middle tier or the microservices, then API gateway, and then UI. I don't know how we will decide or how we will experiment. That's a future thing, but at least for 2 to 3 or max 4 microservices, we'll dump everything in this one subnet, and then we'll scratch our head to think that how do we split it, or do we need to do a VNet pairing, or do you
Yeah.
connect one subnet with other? That's a different ball game. We didn't think. I mean, we started thinking, but we thought that let's keep it simple. let's get beaten black and blue. Then we will learn from our previous mistakes and start
Yeah.
uh, uh, changing our lives. You want to add anything, Johnny?
No, I don't think so. I think, like you say, it's just we're trying to keep the resources relatively straightforward without adding too much complexity. Like you say, with the network in there, we could have carved that up into a number of subnets. We could have deployed multiple VNets, but for now, everything, like you say, all the containerized microservices are going to be, well, everything is going to be running from that single flat IP structure, essentially. Yeah.
Exactly. First, let's make it work in one place, in maybe one virtual network, one subnet. Let it work first.
Yeah.
Then we'll start thinking about separation of concern or division, or then we'll see the firewall rules. I mean, definitely the subnet which has got the data sources, maybe the MongoDB or the SQL Server or the Redis cache, the API gateway or the client application should not be allowed to touch it. Only the microservices, the immediate layer, that's the middle tier, and the microservices, those should come and hit the data stores. We should not allow someone coming and hitting it from the API gateway, or someone hitting it from the UI, or someone hitting it from
Yeah.
external. No, we have to tighten the loose ends, but we will
Yeah.
do it. First, let's drop everything in one subnet, let it work. Then we'll start splitting it into different subnets or firewall rules or whatever it is. I don't know at this point of time. Then we can start thinking, how do we separate it? But at this point of time, the concern is let it work first.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? So without things working, we start thinking about dividing, subdividing. Hey, that's the second thing. First, please make it work. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, right. So, am I making sense?
No, it does. It does make sense, and it's a thing that we can spend a lot of time talking and talking about the design, doing the design. But look, this is a walkthrough, like you say, that we're trying to throw up as many different ways of doing things that we can, so that we can learn and we can talk about them as we do it. So yeah, it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly, isn't it? That's what we are doing. We started, and we didn't directly come to the GitHub Actions.
No.
If you see that, when we started the products microservices, we said that, hey, how do you execute it first on your local machine? If you have a Visual Studio 2022, how do you execute it with Kestrel? How do you execute it with IIS? Then how do you create a Docker container? How do you Dockerize your application and execute it locally? And then we have two Docker containers. And imagine a scenario where I stop my MongoDB Docker container and executing the products microservice using Visual Studio in the Docker. And at the time, what happens is this: it starts, but it will not find the Docker container, and it scratches its head, but it starts and it gives the endpoint, and we'll start hitting the API, and it throws 500 exceptions. Now it's not making sense because these two containers live in the same space, but they don't know each other. Then what we thought is, okay, can we marry these two using the Docker Compose? And while we are marrying those two containers inside the Docker Compose, it made sense that we said, okay, I need this products API, this microservice should be up and running only if the MongoDB container is up. So we added a depends on. So what happens is this products microservice will not spit the endpoint until unless the MongoDB container is up and running. So that's what we did first. Okay, then afterwards, what we did do, we just created the app service and slowly started deploying from the Visual Studio to the app service. So that's a little bit progression. You're coming out of your box and entered into the world of Azure. Okay, let me see what happened to the. Can you flash my screen, please?
Yep. Yep.
I think it is still
Still
in
working
the
through.
state where it is pushing the binaries to the Docker Hub. We'll see that. Before that, I'll come to my Docker Hub, and you see what is the tag, latest tag.
But again, it's worth pointing out that all of these steps we've kind of run through in a bit more detail, haven't we, Swami, over the last few episodes where, again, for those watching, you can either go back and check out the other videos, the previous episodes, but check out the repo and you'll see each session what we covered and the steps that we went through. So it's been documented really well there, Swami, isn't it?
Yeah. You can, if you see, you can go to main, or specifically you can come back to the products repo. So the main repository is the one which holds the wealth of knowledge, and this is a gateway. Like you come here and you know that what is the proposed architecture, and starting from next session we will create the actual architecture. Like this was just a block diagram. I don't know. I don't know whether I can call this as an architectural diagram or not, but I'm calling it as a block diagram / architectural diagram.
Yeah.
So so we will create a real architectural diagram, something a Kubernetes service or drop a MongoDB icon and a microservice icon, because at this point of time we have two. Now immediately the Angular Spark client that's coming up in the session 11, we will do a deep discussion on that and how we are progressing. It is here. You can see what all the sessions we completed, what is the points which we discussed, and what are those its corresponding videos. I don't want to derail that, but we will come and explain our future plan, why we did the logical stop here and going towards client. So that makes more sense. Till now we are playing here. Now we need to start this, and then we need to start the identity, gateway, and we have a configuration service, which is an Azure function, and that will be another container inside this Kubernetes, and we need an API gateway, we need an identity. So whatever we have invested in this 10 to 11 sessions, it's like harvesting. You spent a lot of time, and now it's time to have multiple containers. Like slowly the containers will get added. Okay. So another thing is, if you go to this products repo, the first thing you will see is it will have these 10 sessions here. Okay, those 10 sessions will be there. Let's go and check the GitHub actions. It is waiting on the deployment. I will approve.
Yeah.
And it's you if it is failing.
It's on me, yeah.
Okay. If it goes through, it's on me. So now this also we have seen it couple of times. So all the documentation and its respective videos are there, folks. But see, this is the gateway. So you can see at this point of time, roughly, if you see that, we need to update some of the things. There is a lot of work which is going on behind the scenes. Like we have the identity system. Like I'll just quickly walk you through. This identity is based on the IDEN. This is 20 software identity V6. V6 is the latest one. So this our identity system is purely created with the help of the 20 tutorials, and that has got the SQL server in a separate microservice or a Docker container, and we will get the OpenID configuration. We can retrieve the tokens and we can view the claims. We have integrated the server-side web application with this identity, and we added the external login systems. You can see that we can go and get the external login systems and what are the different clients. A lot of work has been done behind the scenes, but you will see all of a sudden you will see more and more containers getting added. You see this lot of work has been done in identity. There's some work is done in oslet, some in basket, some in admin, some here, and there's one more I missed it. Sorry for that. A configuration server. So a lot of things are being cooked behind the scenes, but it's not been mentioned over here. So keep a watch on this main repo. You will see how are we progressing. I think while this guy is getting deployed, I want to quickly show you one thing. If you come and see this, previously there were only 5 public IPs. Now there is a new public IP which got added. We'll come and we'll probe into that. You remember it didn't had Kubernetes. It just had a GUID. Now you see that Kubernetes and a GUID has been added. We'll come and we'll probe into that, and we'll see what else has been changed here. I'm a little scared coming and touching any one of the things because you never know that.
So this is currently running through and building. What's happening there with this GitHub action is that it's, like I say, it's building those microservices into containers. It's pushing the containers into Docker Hub, then it's deploying those containers into the AKS cluster. So this is taking time, and it's and again, just to point out, all of this has been gone through in quite a lot of detail in the previous episode. So we're just kind of hitting the button and hoping, and I'm sure it's going to work, Swami. It's there. It's there.
It's because of me, John.
It was all you, Swami. Absolutely, 100%.
I don't want to be that greedy, Johnny. Okay, so now this is a key piece. This is a key piece, which I want to show you right now. Here is a public IP. You see this, and you see the type is the load balancer, and you can come and click on this. It comes in here, and we API/v1/products. Drum rolls, please, and TS of joy. It's a combination of both. Okay, so now that's working, and now let's get a little bit deep into this guy. Now, when you come and click on this, you can see that here you can see the pods, on how many pods this particular service has been deployed. You are getting that. Okay?
Yeah.
It's like you can verify, cross-check, and this is a pod IP, and that belongs to this node. And the second thing is the port. The node port is this one, and the port is which is coming, and this is the endpoint. If I'm not wrong, 2224. What is that? 2124 44.55. That's the public IP. Okay, that's the public IP. I think this 10 dot is the internal IP of this one. Now, okay, I'm sorry. I should have stayed there. Here, if I come back to this particular microservice over here, and to know more about that, how it is constructed or other things, we can get this YAML from here in the here in this Azure portal itself. There are a lot of things we can get it. It says that what was a workflow file which it executed, what is a friendly name, what is this workflow. A lot of details are here. I don't know, you need to be a little bit careful, like what is a port, and a lot of information is there, but we need to be little careful to, but it gives us a good information, as we have seen that this is the port, and the node port is this, and the port on which it receives, and the target port where it is routing, and what is the cluster IP. and what is this ingress? This is the public IP, the load balancer IP. That's what we are seeing, that 21.24.44.5. That's where we are hitting. That's one point. Another point is when we come to this public IP over here, and let's see this at least to a high level, 30,000 foot. We'll see that. If I come in, this is a public IP address. That is 124. That's not this one, public IP address. And if you come and see the configuration, this is a IP address that where it is routing, we will see that we will go to the load balancer. We'll see that. And this is 21.24.44.5. So this is 21.24.44.5. So that means we are hitting this public IP address, that one which is starting with the Kubernetes. Okay.
Yeah.
And the second thing what we will do is we'll go to the load balancer, and we'll see the load balancer, and we'll get some other clues when we look into this load balancer. We'll look into that, and let me come to this load balancer, and we see this. We'll just do a quick rundown on this one: application gateway and this, and traffic manager. We didn't use any of those things, but the cloud provider, Azure, Kubernetes itself is taking care of creating this load balancer. It's calling it as Kubernetes. And now you can see that the backend pools, what is there in the backend pools. We'll come and we'll do a deep dive into these things, but not at this point of time. But you see that to what interface it is connected, and what are the backend pools. Like this is outbound backend pool, and this is the Kubernetes backend pool. Now I can get into this backend pools. So when I get into this this particular backend pool here, it says that the virtual network on which it is, and here it is showing us the virtual machine and the IP config. Here you can see that the load balancing rule that's going on port 80. That means we are hitting a particular container inside a pod. So you can see that the pool name is Kubernetes, and it's on TCP. The port is 80. The backend port is this one, and this is Health Pro. And now when I come back to this load balancer, let's do a little bit more probing here itself. You can see the front-end IP configuration. You can see there are two different things. The one which is just like a GUID with hyphens embedded, and that's going to the 21.24.40.140.42. That's going to the pool cluster.
Yeah.
And this one is going, you see that this one is going to the public IP. That means the traffic is coming here. When we hit that public IP, the front end configuration is it's taking this public IP address. So this is the one. And if you come and see, we'll see the load balancing rules also. Like if you see the Health Pro, you can get into that Health Pro. So it is seeing this, and this 32.699. Okay. So where did we see 32.699? Let's go back there into services. What is the number? 32.699. So 32.699. So that means it is internally hitting this API. You can see that Health Pro. So it's coming. It's doing the Health Pro, verifying that that particular pod, the container inside the pod is good. And also you can see the load balancing rules. The load balancing rules is there for the Kubernetes. We don't have the load balancer rules for the first public IP. You can see that this is A07FF. So we have the load balancing rule for A0FF. So that's the one. We just saw that. So what is the port and what is the backend port? And we saw that health check probe that's going and hitting the node port, internal port, or the port which is here. Okay, the port 88 is coming and that's getting into 32699, that port. Okay, so that's how it is routing the information. So there are a lot of things which is happening behind the scenes, and I really enjoyed learning this Azure Kubernetes surveys, Johnny, from one of the author in Udemy. So
Yeah.
I really liked Azure Kubernetes service. Okay, k8s, Udemy, yeah, ready. This is the author. Yeah, this is the author, Mr. Kalyan Reddy. I seriously learned a lot from this course. I mean, whatever I'm learning. Okay, this was from Kalyan Reddy. No, it's not. You can see this author, Kalyan Reddy, and Terraform. One out of his scores, I'm sure. Okay, I think I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
But definitely it was.
I mean, there's a lot of material out there at the moment to learn these things. I mean, to be honest with
this
you,
guy. Yeah, this author.
Yeah.
Seriously knowledgeable author. So, and on top of that, I started putting in something which I can learn. But the base knowledge is definitely Mr. Kalyan Reddy.
Yeah, it's like anything. As soon as you start deploying one or two small microservices, maybe just deploying one or two nodes with these services running, it's a case then of, the detail is what the best practices are, and I guess they can depend on what you're actually putting in the Kubernetes service itself. Like you say, how do you want those microservices to talk to each other? Are they, what kind of services are they? Are they identity services? Are they APIs running, certain microservices? So, there's a lot to learn. It's fair to say there's a lot to learn, and I'm personally behind the learning curve there on Kubernetes. Personally, I think it's an area that is getting a lot more use across the board at the moment. And lots of people are talking about it. So I mean, it's good to see that you've jumped in, Swami, and started playing around and getting it to this point, to be honest. So I mean, how have you found it generally, trying to work your way through that? Have you had to rely on previous knowledge a lot, or did that course kind of take you through from the basics right the way through?
Yeah, there are 2-3 authors. I'll get everyone, all the authors' name, but on top of mine have Mr. Kalyan, so I just called out his name. But the other authors, there are a couple of other authors. I learned it through the video course. It was pretty fantastic. They explained the internals of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's about the thing. We did a lot of experiments, but at least let's do 1 or 2 rounds of retrieving the data, and then we'll go and do a quick recap, like what is our future plans. And I just want to quickly show how do we interact with Kubernetes in the in Visual Studio Code. That's very, very important thing. Now you see that these all things are related. It's not that these are separate entities. It's all related. Like, see this. If this is this is our Docker desktop, and if I go to Docker desktop and right mouse click on that, and you see this Kubernetes, at this point of time, the context. That means if I execute any command on my virtual machine in Azure, that goes and hits the Minikube. It doesn't hit the um, the AKS, which we provision. So that's
Right.
very important. We need to understand. So what I'll do is, because this is the previous thing which I included it. Now it is absolute. It doesn't. We don't need this one. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and delete it from the configuration. So it deleted the configuration. So it should impact this also. If not, we will see. So it removed that because the context, it's gone because it's a previous one. So how do you get it to this? You come to this overview, and inside that overview you have command connect. So in that connect, you see this is the credentials. So I come to this and get into my box, and what I will do is I will right mouse click on that and add an existing cluster. Okay, I just do add an existing cluster, connecting to the Microsoft Azure. I can do that. That's one way to do it. And this is a painful process. If you're too much into click guy like me, or we can come to the terminal. That's the simplest way, because we have this command, straight command is there. How do you connect it? Just copy this. Very simple. Copy this and come and just paste it. Oh, that's weird. I need to paste it this one. That's one card. I love this. So now I'm saying that get this cluster, and you can see that merge the cluster. So let's come and refresh that. We saw that. Okay.
Yeah.
And again, come back to the Docker desktop. You can see that that is the context. So what
Yeah.
will happen when you set the context? Okay. So if I come in here and execute this one, kubectl. Oh God. I will let me copy all these things. If not, every time I need to do the. Oh God. I don't need that much. At least I need two things. I'll copy here, come back to this. And where's that guy? It's not in here. Let me show the desktop.
Clipboard.
Yeah, it's here. God. Is this a punishment or what?
The arrows are in the wrong place.
I know. See this. This is coming in here. Okay. So now see this. When we say this get nodes and go and execute it. So that means it tries to get these nodes from the Kubernetes cluster. See this. How we said nodes. There are two nodes. That's 001, 000, and 001. So how do you know that? Definitely there are two nodes. So we can come to this this one. Go to this nodes. You see that?
Yeah.
The node 0 and node 1. So we are having two nodes. So that means whenever we are executing this command, because the context is this one, you see this is the tick, and as well as in the Kubernetes inside your Docker desktop, where you set, when you set a context, that itself will take care in all the tools.
Yeah.
Maybe the Docker desktop or Visual Studio Code, or if it is any other tool also. Let's go outside these two guys. let's do one other experiment. I'm coming to the terminal, which is no way related to these tools. Okay, now I go to plain command and I'll execute this. That's giving the same output.
Yeah.
Okay, now I go to this git bash, and inside the git bash I copy paste and execute. Everywhere I get this because when I set the context, so within that all these tools, they understand, okay, the context is AKS, which is there in Azure. So any command which we are executing will go against, not against it, which will go and hit the AKS which is in Azure.
Hmm.
And we'll see few of these things. It's very important to learn these commands. Like if you see this wide, o wide, so that is giving few other information, external IP, like what is the OS image, because we know that there are two virtual machines, virtual machine 0 and virtual machine scales at 0 and virtual machine scales at 1. And you can see that different internal IPs are there, and what is the OMS image, OS image of that, and what is the kernel version. And the key thing is the container runtime. The container runtime is not Docker. The container runtime is container D. This we discussed. So you can have different container runtime, CRIO or container D, or a lot of things are there. Docker can also be one of the container runtime. If you see 2 years earlier, we used to have Docker as a container runtime in AKS. There are few other things are there. So another thing what we will do is we'll quickly go and get the pods. We'll get the pods and we'll execute the pod Y. So you're seeing these are the pods which we are getting, and different namespace. And if you want to describe any pod, so this command is very, very important. I will guarantee you on that. That's very important. Describe the pod. And what is the name of the pod? That's a Mongo pod, and this is the eShop microservice pod. And you can see that there's a wealth of knowledge in this one. When you execute that, it says that what is the namespace where we deployed it, and on which node this is running, what is its internal IP, and when did it start, and any annotations, what is the status, what is the IP. Okay, and you can see what is the replica set's name. That means if at all we said that there should be 3 instances of API, assume that 2 instances crashed. So who is the guy who's responsible? This replica set is a guy who's responsible for spinning up another 2 containers and ensuring that it has got 3 all the time. And what is the container ID? And you see that the image ID, it is going and getting it from my Docker hub. See that?
Yeah.
Bishopilor eShop services products. Where is that? Here.
Yeah. Okay.
Products, the latest one, the one which we pushed it few minutes ago, maybe less than 30 minutes, if I'm not wrong. Yeah,
28 minutes ago.
less than 30 minutes. This is the one it is taking. So a lot of things. So you can ask one question, hey, do I need to learn all these commands? No, you don't need to. Nowadays the tools are pretty good. You see that? So I sometimes think that these tools are making us these tools are making us lazy.
No, I mean, it's good to know what part of a graphical user interface is using which command. So it's a good thing to try and learn the commands. But the queue control commands, there are a few main commands, and it's like anything then, isn't it? You can...
Yeah, exactly. Now I will show a lot of things. See this.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have 5 minutes. We might stretch little. But you see this, whatever we were seeing here in the pool namespaces, you see that here, the namespaces which we saw in Azure. Now you go nodes. If we were navigating from here, we came to node pools and we saw the node pools, and when we clicked on node, and here you can see this the runtime, the same thing. Whatever we saw here, we were able to see that through the terminal.
Yeah.
Okay, imperatively. And now we are seeing it through the visual tool. That's the extension in VS Code. Now you can get bottom of this one. You see that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have it over here. See, in this node, you have the MongoDB. That's in the machine 0. And let me check. That's in one machine. Oh, okay. He distributed the load so that if one guy crashes, the other guy is safe. Now, see this. Intelligently, it placed the MongoDB in virtual machine 0 here, eShop Mongo, and eShop products API has been placed in here. Now you expand this, so it says that running, and this is an internal IP. And see this wonder. Now here you come and click on get. So what it is doing is it is going. See, it says get pod. What is the pod name? This one. The same command we executed it here 2 minutes ago. Okay, the same command we executed, but we said all pods. But here specifically, even though you don't know these commands, if you have the VS Code tool, at least you can know that, okay, if I do get, so it is giving me this command, kube control, get pod, you give the pod name and what namespace, wido, it is giving all information. See the wonders of this tool. You don't need to know, even if you don't know, no worries, but you can learn it. Like, see this in the previous command. If you come here, you said that kube control, describe pod, the pod name, you have to go through this, copy this and paste it, and then you're getting all these things. Now here you see this, rightmost click on this and click on describe.
Yeah, there it is.
Boom, you got this entire Excel. You didn't even learn a single command, but this visual tool, whatever, we saw the same thing, isn't it? We saw the container ID, we saw the image, we saw the image ID, all the blah, blah things which we saw. Here you can see the CPU request and the memory limits and whatnot. I mean, the tons and tons of information. Like,
I mean, the benefits of this, VS Code and the plugins just seem to be getting more and more comprehensive. You know, they're being developed at just a fast pace. So yeah, they are good.
Yeah. See this, I do logs. Now this guy is pulling the logs. Okay. So there are two things. Like if I do run, I'm getting this logs. Okay. If I go and re-execute this command, that means I executed it another time. It's bringing in this some more content. Okay. I have to bring this, or I can click on follow logs. So when I do a follow logs, what's happening is if I come in here and execute this 2 times, and that should, start bringing in the save settings. I'm sorry, I forgot to save the settings. I will execute 1, 2. Let's wait whether it is flushing the logs. It should bring in those logs here.
Yeah.
It's taking time. Yeah, I told it to save the settings and trail.
We're coming up to 6 o'clock now, Swami. So I don't know if we want to think about starting to.
Oh yeah, I will quickly walk them through the future plan. Now, this 10th episode, what we are doing is we are making a logical closure of this product's microservice. and then we'll introduce the Angular 14 in the session 11. Like we'll discuss about the Angular 14 project, which gets the content from the Kubernetes. The products microservice which has been deployed from the Kubernetes microservice. It's more of those things, and we might touch upon the eShop main, but majorly it's on the client. And then we'll do a deep dive. How do you configure Angular projects? Like how do you configure the TypeScript configuration, the Angular JSON, and the package.json, and the Angular config, the environment, Husky, and then how do you separate the concerns between the design, like reusable colors and all those things. And then there is some configuration service. Like when a client application boots up, there are multiple ways to handle it. You can inject everything within the client application. You can tell that, hey, go and get the data from this URL, this URL, and this URL. And tomorrow, the production URL changes. Again, you need to come and modify the client. How about creating a configuration service and drop all these configurations like a dev configuration, QA, test, stage, and prod, 5 different configurations in 5 different data stores or database or somewhere. And this configuration service will go and get different configurations based on some parameters, or configuration service itself is getting deployed in different environments. So in this case, what happens is the client is brainless. So the client makes a call to the configuration service spits out the entire configuration, and clients go and talk to those configurations. So a lot of things are coming in. So now if you see this, the configuration service, it's one container, the client is one container, and then we will introduce the identity service, 2 containers, and there's a profile service, another 2 containers, like 2 plus 2, 4 plus 4, like 8 containers coming in next 8 sessions.
Yeah,
So
well, we've got to look forward to it, Swabby. This is it. It's all keeping us all on our toes, and we're learning lots whilst we're doing it as well. So it's lots to look forward to. So are we? Yeah, I mean, should we bring this episode to a close now, Swami? And have you got anything else you want to add? Yeah. So I mean, our next session. Thank you to everybody that's joined us live here in the chat. I mean, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat now, or comment on this video below, and we'll get back and see if we can answer. But equally, as we pointed out in the past, if you've got any good ideas or things that we're talking about that you want to add, a bit of context or your own ideas to, feel free to drop us some comments, and we can take those on board as well. But yeah, anything you want to add to that, Swami?
A couple questions. Fayaz Ibrahim, he asked, "Hey Fayaz, let me paste that."
I pasted. I don't know if you can see it. I don't think we can see each other's posts, Swami, when we paste in this chat. I pasted that in for Fayaz earlier, so I think you should have seen it.
Oh, is it? Okay. I'm sorry.
But when you were pasting them in earlier on, I wasn't seeing them my side, which is a bit strange. Maybe that's something that YouTube have put in place. Who knows? It's a bit odd.
Oh yeah, right.
Do you not see you don't see my post in there, do you?
Right. I'm not able to. Okay, Faz, you got it. Faz, that's this is my main repo. GitHub Vishipilor Faz. So anytime
it's also on the screen as well for anybody watching. It's on the screen scrolling across the bottom. The products. We'll change that for the next session. But no, that's great, Swami. I think we're in a good position then. So when's our next session? We've got a little bit of a break now, haven't we, for the rest of October? I think we said we're looking at around about the 4th. Yeah. I think it's the 4th of November.
4th of November. Faz, that's my Twitter handle, Vishipilor. GitHub Vishipilor, Twitter Vishipilor, Facebook Vishipilor, all the places Vishipilor. So you can ping us. And the 3 weeks, John, we took it because we wanted, as you know, that we were doing internal demos between 3 of us on the client application. It has shaped very good with the contents. The products are getting displayed with the header and the flow of this, having a cards and the product and a little bit of description. But we wanted to do a little bit of facelift of the UI and it has got the dark mode and the light mode. Robbie added pretty good features inside that. I'm pretty exciting to see that. But
No
we just wanted
spoilers.
to, yeah, we just wanted to do a little bit facelift on that. So that's the reason. So
Cool. Right. Well, it's been good to see you again, Swami. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and
likewise.
watching. We'll see you all on the 4th of November. Thanks a lot,
Good night,
Swami.
folks. Good
Ta-ra,
night from
everyone.
India.
Bye now.
Happy weekend.